All right, guys, got some good stuff for you here today. Again, had a student again in Mission 1400 Plus, which is my school community over here, who sent me a full recording of her taking an SAT practice test from the website we use, which is called Onco. Here's my full video giving all of my thoughts on the practice test and the various different things she could improve on. She scored a 1430 on this practice test with a 730 in reading and writing and a 700 in math. There was some really good strategy stuff at the beginning of this and also in the math section I think would really help you guys, so definitely pay attention to that section especially. Plus we go over a bunch of practice problems that she had missed. As a reminder, if you join here in Mission 1400 Plus for the next 30 days on the free trial, I will actually do this exact same thing for you as well if you send me a full recording of you taking a practice test. You may be kind of shocked that I'm willing to do this for free, but I'm just doing it for people on the free trial here in the community and who actually go through the work of taking a practice test and send it to me. So if you want this for yourself, this exact kind of video, feel free to do that. No risk. Just start a 7-day free trial with the link in the description below. But now let's get straight into the video. All right, so here's that practice test review for you now. So 1430. Still, I know you're hoping for a little bit higher into like the 1500 range, but this is still a really good score. And also based off the stuff you're missing, just a few like very hard questions in reading and then also some fairly difficult questions in math as well. So not really the worst considering all of that, but I do have some pretty valuable feedback, I think, on the stuff from this that you did. So overall, what you did in reading and math, a lot of decisions you made a lot of sense to me. A lot of stuff with the order you did the problems in, how you're approaching the problems. For math, how you're using Desmos for them, a lot of the stuff that I typically recommend. Here's some stuff that I think could have been improved. First, with reading and writing, I think the big thing here is the order for the problems. I can't remember if you ever specifically told me about this before, but definitely like what I noticed you doing was basically starting with the grammar, going to the end of the test, and then you like went to the passages and then did those and then went back to the vocab, but also like you checked some answers before you went to the vocab. I think honestly, just seeing how this test went and seeing how kind of like crazy it was at the end, I would definitely suggest just going to the typical strategy of going 15 through the end and just vocab to the middle like that and just following it that order as usual. I think it would just be a lot simpler, and the main rationale behind going through it like this is that you're just putting the easier questions at the beginning and saving the harder questions for the end of the test. So I think it would have been at least a little bit helpful to do as well. And I'll say in a second how to skip the question. So second thing I will point out here is the predictions. If you are not currently doing this, on all the passage questions, on all of the transitions in the vocab, making sure that you always are making a prediction before you get to the answer choices. I just put this in here because I can't see if you are doing it, obviously, because I can't see exactly what you're saying, what you're thinking as you're taking the test. But if you are not, this is going to be a very key thing, and this could eliminate any kind of remaining errors that could show up in this stuff. But obviously, you did really well in all those. You didn't get any transitions or passage questions wrong on this test. So you probably are already doing this, I would assume. Third thing here, how to skip questions. And I also have basically here how to check. I should include that as well. So back to the order stuff that I was saying before, go here and then you go here and go through the test. What I would really suggest is do not skip any questions as you go through on any of the grammar, transitions, student notes, any of the vocab, and only skip stuff when you get to the passage questions. All of the other sections of the test, you can definitely just get through it without having to skip any, and you're probably not going to like have some kind of realization later on that's going to change your mindset. Like for a grammar question, you're not just going to like suddenly realize midway through the test that like, oh, I have to do that. It's just going to be the case that, hey, if you know how to do it, you'll know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, you'll get it wrong. So don't skip any questions. And then when you get to these passage questions, what you can do then, so like maybe these questions right here, you can skip any ones that you're struggling with and then come back to those at the end of the test and finish those. And then finally, if you have any remaining time left at the end of the test, you can check all of your answers. I saw you do some kind of weird thing where it seemed like maybe you were checking some of these before going to these, and like you were skipping some of the vocab as well, potentially. So yeah, all of that I think just makes it a lot more confusing, a lot more difficult, a lot more complex. I'm not sure if that's what you typically are doing, or maybe this is just something for this specific test, but if it is not, that's the overall strategy. And I say this more in the SAT execution system course as well. Final thing I'll say here on grammar. So obviously you didn't end up getting any grammar questions incorrect, but I was just thinking based off of how I saw you going through the questions, definitely make sure that you're approaching grammar questions systematically. What I can mean by this is like, for example, if you have a grammar question, think to yourself, is the part before the blank an independent clause? Is the part after the blank a dependent clause? And then based off that, what would have to be the separations between them? So like for this example, it would have to be like a comma or like literally nothing. If it was IC, it would have to be a semicolon, colon, period, comma, fanboys, that kind of stuff. So think about it more like that in case you are not already. Just kind of felt like that was what I was seeing based off how you're approaching it then. So these things alone, I think, could actually improve your accuracy a lot. Now let me get on to the specific questions you missed. So just 3 vocab here. And I will admit all of these did appear to be pretty difficult vocab. So I don't blame you that much. But I'll say a few things here that I think maybe could have gotten you to the right answer. So for this first one, I did see the note that you gave on this one where you talked about how you thought. So okay, yeah, so this passage basically is saying that it is changing what the earlier impression was. So we're looking for a word like change. And you said reiterates, so like remake, and then iterates, so like rewrite the earlier impression. So yeah, honestly, I didn't really think of it myself before seeing that, but actually that is a somewhat fair way to evaluate this word. It does look like it's saying rewrite. But the big thing to know is that iterate, it doesn't really mean to change or to do anything different or to remake itself. It just means like essentially another thing, like another version. Like if I'm iterating on a process, I would just be like doing the process again and again. So it wouldn't really mean to change in that kind of way. So that's the one thing there, but I totally get your logic there. And so if you eliminate this one, I think you probably see reinforces, precedes, those would not work, so you have to go for bellies. You probably do not know what bellies means, but it's the kind of case where with a lot of these vocab things, you just eliminate all the definitely wrong ones, and this is just the only one that's left. So always keep that in mind. You oftentimes on these vocab questions do have to go for words that you are not familiar with, but that's often okay if you can eliminate all the ones you definitely know are not it. Second one here, so this one, it says the archaeologist. Okay, yeah, so this one's also somewhat a fair one. But basically what it's saying here, they are using this term in showing both permanent housing and evidence of centralized storage. The thing that I think really makes it circumscribes rather than recast is the fact that they're not really saying here that they are changing the meaning of city. You maybe did not realize that the first time you read this, but if you really look at what's being said here, it's not that they're taking the term city and now re-changing its definition. Rather, it's just they're using city and they're using it for these different groups. Like they say they're using it for both permanent housing and centralized storage. That's how they're using the term city. It's not like it had a previous definition and now they're recasting it, they're changing it. Like it wouldn't be like this one where like they'd be changing it to something completely different. It's just saying that they're using this term in this specific way. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you can see the distinction there. It would be recast if they're like city used to mean like less than 5,000 people and now are using it to mean more than 10,000 people. But that's not what's happening here. They're just using this term city in a specific way. So circumscribes, circum, in case you did not know, means like around a circle, like to embody something, encompass something. So that's like a very good root to know. And so that's why it would be that. They're using city to basically encompass all of these that both have permanent houses and then also storage. So when anything that has that would be included in this definition of city. That's really just an understanding thing there, but I totally get your reason for that mistake as well. Last one here. So we have a board and they gave a report that was basically just exactly what the company already said. So just kind of like a repeat of what they've already done. This one is a kind of weird one. It's definitely very difficult, but obsequious basically means to please suck up to somebody, an authority figure. So that would definitely work here. They're trying to say that they basically were just like taking what the company already said is a good idea and reusing it themselves. Lucid, on the other hand, it means something clear, logical, easily understood. The point here that they're trying to make is not that it's just clear and logical. It's more the idea that it's trying to actually like please some company. But yeah, this one's also kind of difficult. I really don't blame you for getting this one wrong. This is obviously a hard one as well. Okay, onto the math things that I think could have been improved here. So first thing I definitely want to point out here is writing down the information for complex word problems. You'll see some examples down here where I'm not sure if you did this, maybe you actually did, but it would have been a really good idea just like kind of visualize what is actually going on here. Like for example, this one might be a good example of this. Like you have a data set with 11 integers, so you can basically say there's like 5 on this side and 5 on this side. And then it says the mean of the 5 smallest is 18, and then the mean of the 5 largest is 32. And then it says the mean is equal to the median. This here would be the median, so that must also be the mean. And now when I read it like that, you can probably see basically how we would have to solve this problem. So stuff like that, and the way you know to do that is if it ever seems like something overly complex, overly confusing. You probably can think about some of the problems that you miss as well. Like these are problems where if you've written down some of the information, it helps you visualize it a bit better so you can make better decisions when actually solving the problem. Second thing here, again, back to the logic for skipping questions again. What I always say for math is if you can tell going into the problem that you don't immediately know the way to solve it, you should just skip it and come back to it later. So the way that you're approaching a math module, it's not like you just are trying to find some specific order for all these questions. It's more the case you just do it in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then if you see one, like say question 10 is something where you just know going into it, you do not know how to do this problem. Like maybe you could figure it out, but you just do not know immediately. Just skip it and come back to it later. And then once you get through all the other questions, come back to that question, see if you can solve it. It's not worth trying to just like brute force a question and try to spend a ton of time on it just hoping you'll be able to figure out the right answer. It's much more likely that you'll just be able to solve other questions rather than you'll be able to have some kind of big realization on this one thing. So it's much more strategic for you to skip that and come back to it later. I think there are definitely at least a couple examples of this on the test, maybe these problems themselves, some of them. But yeah, regardless, when you see problems like that would be a useful thing to do. Third thing here, these are just some like minor things because like overall the rest of the stuff was not too bad or confusing. First of all, just some stuff about regression problems. The first thing I have to say here, when you have a single variable equation, like if you just have something like x plus 5 and then like equal to 7 plus, I don't know, 3x, something like that. Actually, would this even work? I don't know, this might actually be like no solution. Actually, I guess it would. Okay, so when you're writing something like this, I would just suggest don't even write it like this and try to look at the line. Just go ahead and put it into regression form. So put the ones there and then put the tilde here. It just does save time, at least a little bit of time. And sometimes on these longer problems, it saves a lot of time. So it's definitely worth it to do. And second, along with that, the thing I was trying to say over here, when you're writing regression, try to get into the habit of just putting the ones immediately after the x's. I know that's probably what you're trying to do, but I definitely did notice a bunch of times where like you wrote the entire thing and then you had to come back and put the ones there and like the one there. That obviously just takes a little bit more time as well. It's a lot faster if you can just go like 3x1 plus 5 plus, x1 tilde like 67, like something like that. Just allows you to do it very, very fast and fluidly. As you could see there, it just saves a bit of extra time as well. Fourth thing, always separate the things for no solution problems. So if you see something like this problem that you saw, if you did get this one correct, it looks like, but it says here they have no solutions. So I saw your first idea was to make this into regression and then put the tilde sign. The big thing you need to know is whenever you make it into regression, it would count as being at least one solution or all solutions. No solutions is like a completely different category of problem, and you always have to solve these just by writing it out individually. It's like y is equal to like 1/4. Well, yeah, you just like write each, like you write y is equal to that side, y is equal to that side. And yes, you did figure this out eventually, but just know that for other problems as well. Fifth thing here, regression with table stuff. I have a few thoughts on this. First of all, with this problem, it says the value of a used laptop is modeled by this function where t is number of years. I noticed you struggling with this as you were getting through this module 1 problem. In this example, you're going to write here a table and they give you x's and y's for the tables, but they want you to have t be in place of x. And you can tell that because it says that t is the number of years. T is the variable that is changing. Typically, it would be x that is changing, but now it's t. One way you can do that is just if you make this t instead, so that just completely solves the problem. Then you can just go ahead and write this, and then if you even do it like, I guess, okay, here it keeps it the regular way, but like I could write here y1 tilde 3t plus 6. So yeah, that works. What happened with you is you still had it as x1 here instead. That causes a bunch of problems. Now it's, I guess, okay, in this example, in this example, like, it doesn't even know what to do because, it doesn't have a t there. So you can either put t here, or if you want, you can just keep it as x1 and just put x1 in place of the variable, so something like that. So that just will save a little bit of time there as well. Last thing I will also say is this was also just a minor thing. You had a problem here where there was a cubic function. I don't have it actually here, but there was one, I think, in module 2 where it was a cubic because it had an exponent 3. You actually have the option to do it as a cubic just in the table here. So if you ever see something cubic like this, you can just click there rather than having to write yourself. That would also save a bit of time. Besides that, I definitely did like a lot of what you did. And the thing to know is I'm going to go through some of these hard math problems. These are the kinds of problems where I think it's like, after you see this problem one time, you're not going to be making the same mistake again. So these hard math problems that you missed are things where you will be improving after you go through this. So you shouldn't feel too bad about it. Some of these problems are also the case where you only really will understand this after you get it wrong the first time. You have to make the mistake to really understand what's going on and to realize you need to improve in this thing. Okay, first one here. So we have this one here where they have the data point of 2 being replaced to, or changed to 10 basically. And so you had everything right except for the range increasing versus decreasing. Not sure if this was a careless mistake or if you really made this mistake, but basically just the way to think about it is in the original one, range would be referring to basically 9. Yeah, 9 there, and then minus 2. So that would be equal to 7. For the second one, it becomes 10 minus 4. Because 10 is now the biggest one, and then 4 is the smallest, so that would become 6. So it would just become a little bit smaller for the second one, so the range would decrease as a result. Besides that, everything was right, it looks like. This one here, I saw this was the one you really were struggling on a lot, like really trying to figure out this one and try to understand it. Yeah, so it's a little bit weird, but not too bad. Basically, just the way that you can approach this is you have here 8k minus 10. This would be the same exact angle measurement as z. We know this because it is kind of like this example over here. If we have, this is something I showed in the geometry course. This here would be the same as that. And then this would be the same as that. And so if we imagine as if this was that thing. We can see here basically it's as if we were going on this angle measurement and that angle measurement. These are both acute and they would be the same amount just because, I mean, you think about it logically, but yeah, 180 minus this would equal that, 180 minus this would equal that. It's going to end up being the same amount. So that is what we can set equal to each other. So we can say here 8k minus 10 being equal to z. I'll change those variables in a second. And then we just need to find another equation because how these always work, you need at least one equation per variable. So this one here, I can just make the 180 since it's a triangle. So I can say 2k plus 20 plus z plus 50, and that must equal 180. Now, last thing here, I just need to change the variables. So I'll make x in place of k and y in place of z, and then same thing here. Okay, now this is what is the value of z, so basically what is the value of y. So yeah, 86 there. So that's why 86 would be the answer. So yeah, it seems like you definitely were overcomplicating this. The way you solve this is by making different equations and putting in the variables you have, but yeah, you just have to find the right equations. This one, very small miss here, but it says charge a fee of 8 and then 3.5 for each additional device added to the plan. It kind of does help to write it maybe a little bit here because you can see like 3.5, that's for the add, and then 8 is for the first device. So you can see here it's a little bit clearer what's happening. The thing you have to know is whenever it says something like this, what they're really saying is that the first one is just 8, and then everything after that is 3.5. So the first one is not 3.5. The first one is just 0, but then after that. So what we would actually do here is do 3.5 times x minus 1. Because it's like taking one x away because that first one was just made by the 8. That's the first thing. And then every x after that. So then if we were to write this, we just do some basic algebra here. So we'd have 3.5 times x minus 3.5. We combine the like terms here, so then we eventually get 4.5 plus 3.5x. So that is what's going on. Whenever it's something here with the first one being different, you have to do x minus 1, or that variable minus 1. This one here with the integers, I kind of already started this one off. We have here 11 integers. The mean of the 5 smallest is 18. The mean of the 5 largest is 32. Then the entire thing is equal to the median, was the value of the median. So I can just go ahead and write equations here like some of the other problems that we have done. So I can say here for the 5 smallest, let me just use x for that. So x divided by 5 must equal 18. And then the 5 largest is 32. So let me just say y for that. Y for 5 largest is equal to 32. And then here's the thing here. So we have 5 here and 5 here. So that'd be the 5 on this side, the 5 on that side. We have one value we missed, which is the median and also the mean because it says the mean is equal to the median. So we can just say this last one here. We can say x plus y because that's the top 5 and the bottom 5. And then plus z for that middle value. Z is just the middle itself. So this would be z here. Divided by 11. That together would equal, actually, I mean, I guess, does it even say what that equals? Oh yeah, the mean of it would be the same as the median. So the mean would also just be z. So might be a little bit confusing. Might have to rewatch that a second to understand what's going on here. But top, bottom, middle, divided by the total amount, and then equals the mean, which is also the same as the median, so you can just use z. So that's what's going on here. I will just solve this in kind of like the bad way. I'll just go ahead and make a slider. Yeah, typically I would want to just put it into regression form, but just save time. So yeah, if we move the slider around, you'll see it does have the triple intersection when z is equal to 25. So that's why 25 would be the answer. Okay, so this one here, library's collection consists of 40% fiction. Okay, so yeah, really what you need to know here is that you have 90% of stuff that is not magazines and 10% that is magazines. And then you removed 120 non-magazine items. So what we're really saying here is like 12%, if I was to write out in some information, would be equal to the mag, so M for mag, divided by the total amount. The one thing it says here though, they remove 120 non-magazine items. So that would not do anything to the magazines, it would just do something to the total amount down here. So you remove 120 from the total amount, and yeah, that'd be it. So magazines equals 12%. So the way we could write that then here is do M, yeah, divided by, I guess total amount, we can just say, let's just say x for that minus 120, and that must equal 0.12. Now, we have two variables here, but only one equation. So how can we simplify this a bit more? Well, it says at the beginning, this thing about the rest being magazines. So we know this M must be equal to 1.1 times X. That's what it must be because X is referring to all of the things at the beginning. Everything at the beginning, and then 10% of X would be the magazines at the beginning. So might make some more sense now. You're removing 120 things that are not magazines, so that would just go here at the bottom. It doesn't have anything to do with the top because this is just the magazines. And then we have 0.1. This doesn't change at all because we don't add or change any magazines. So we do all that, and then we would get this thing. So I can just make it regression now and I will add the ones here because I wasn't really making a regression first. So 720 is the total amount that we have. And it says how many fiction. So 40% fiction. So 40% of 720. That would end up being 288. Last one here, we have here the altitude. So I don't remember exactly how much of this one you got through. But yeah, with the altitude information, we know here that 12 must be equal to basically square root of x times 3x1. So we know here that x must be equal to 6.928. Okay, so then we know here that the length of AB, k square root of d, so we can say here k square root of d is equal to 6.9282. And so this isn't the most scientific way of doing this, but I will just go ahead and say k is equal to some variable and also like move it around until we find a place that makes sense for this. So we need to find a place where both of these are integers and then also where d is in a very simple form, like it's a very simple number. So I'll just move it around here. Where can we find d being in a simple form? Actually, well, maybe it's a lot smaller. Oh, sorry, it's not that. It would be 4 times that. Yeah, because it'd be 1x plus 3x times that. Okay, yeah, so my bad there. Okay, yeah, so we can see here there are different places where they are both integers. Like, for example, if we have k being equal to... Actually, wait, is there even a place? All right, I see more places before. Yeah, I guess actually, though, yeah, low-key, the only place you can see where it's an integer is when k is equal to 16 and d is equal to 3. So d would just be 3 for this one. It says here d is square free and it's the simplest form. So if d was equal to something like 12, that would not be the simplest form because you can reduce that. You can like divide 12 by 3 and that gives us 4. So it has to be something very small like 3. So yeah, that is how to solve all those there. But again, these are all ones where I think now that you've seen them the first time, you probably will not going to be making that same mistake again. If you have any other questions on any of this, feel free to let me know. Any other questions about the actual process, the strategy for the test, always can be valuable, and I can let you know any information on that as well. Thanks so much though, and I'll talk to you again soon. All right guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Again, if you want this for yourselves, just check the link in the description below and join the 7-day free trial. I will see you guys in the next one. Good luck on the SAT and make sure to always stay Gucci.